Welcome to another great morning here on Good Morning Uganda. It is the 18th of October 2022. I must say that this one is starting off on a quite interesting note. Well, much later on I'll be explaining why I think it's quite an interesting one. But hey, welcome back. We are here yet to discuss, to have fun, and also to be in the know what's happening around you. Well, I must say today being the second day of UNEB, we're lucky that yesterday did go on so well. There were not really so many major issues that were pointed out by UNEB as the UCE candidates here of Uganda sat for their examinations. We can only hope and pray that the second day will also go on seamless without any major hindrance. And once again, I just want to congratulate all the schools that were able to have their candidates finally sit. Of course, apart from a few instances where we did see some students miss out on sitting these examinations, mainly because some of the head teachers of these respective schools did not commit fully and they didn't pay the fees that they were bound to pay. Why? Well, because they thought maybe using that money for their personal needs was way more than considering what the money was supposed to be doing, especially when it comes to the children's welfare. It's quite very sad and unfortunate that we are still having such incidents, and I hope that the law can prevail and justice can be given, especially to these students who missed out on their final examination. But all that up and above, there is quite a lot happening. When we go to the UK, Liz Truss is actually sitting on a very hot one because a number of MPs have started sending in letters and asking her to resign. From the time she got into this position, things haven't really been going on fairly well for her, and I can say that it's quite evident the people are not happy. We're yet to see what is about to happen to her. Will she sit this one out or not? Good morning once again, and we do have the whole panel this morning. I do have Mollen, I do have Felix, and of course Robert. Maybe to start off with you, Robert. Good morning, how are you doing?
I'm very fine. Good morning, team. Good morning, our viewers, and thank you so very much for waking up with us this lovely Tuesday morning. Mollen, so much happened yesterday, and as a journalist, when there's so much news around, I really enjoy my work. So right from senior 4 exams that you began with, we saw in Kibuku district a 36-year-old man, another one 30, sit for their exams. Yeah. It's never too late. Never too late. Never too late indeed. But also, still interestingly, with enforcement of Ebola guidelines in Mubende, police have so far impounded 200 motorcycles and 28 vehicles. So things are not that very easy there. Yes, the Ebola guidelines, people should follow them. But there was also another disturbing story. You know, this issue of kidney. I don't know. Once we had a girl who returned from Saudi and said she had a missing kidney. But experts, according to Uganda, came out and said she was born with one kidney. Even yesterday, police came out and confirmed that the gentleman complaining that his kidney, after an operation, was stolen from him. Well, he was born with one kidney. And they say a CT scan proves he was born with one kidney. Now, I think we better go and check ourselves before maybe you go for an operation and they tell you have one kidney. So my brothers, my sisters, in case you fall sick, go and find out you have all your body organs. Or you are born with a certain part missing. Then after you may come out and tell us. Because, you know, these guys are fine. Yes. At what level do they realize they have one kidney? After an operation? Yeah. For sure, if a person, maybe they give us information, how many people in the world, if they could, you want the statistics. They were having an argument with a friend yesterday, and they were saying, now this one, even if it doesn't really go this gentleman's way, it's just a big lesson for every Ugandan. In case you're going in for these big surgeries and all that, probably it's more ideal for you to do a scan to ensure and give accountability that you have all your body organs. So just in case anything happens to you, you can always have evidence, because now where is this man going to go? There's a girl from Saudi, one kidney. So one kidney, God can create anyway, no wonder morning.
Good morning once again. Mollen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you. And of course, I want to say good morning, Uganda. It's a very interesting and intriguing topic, if you ask me.
Yes.
Because now I am wondering, should we be going for these tests prior because this was an accident and this person couldn't have known that they would go for a surgery. So how about maybe, this is what the doctors are implicating. We go get our CT scans, we go get our tests, such that we ascertain that we have all the organs.
Yes.
So that in case of anything, at this time,
You can always have the documentation with
exactly.
you.
So I will have my documents to counteract whatever the doctors are giving me in that incident. Because it's no coincidence that we've had 2 instances where people are found with 1 kidney. And this is just a minimal, any doctor out there, any medic would know that this is a minimal percentage out of humanity for someone to be born with 1 kidney. So how come these 2 incidences that we're claiming and even taking to court happen to be among the few human beings with 1 kidney? It's
What's
just
the probability?
Exactly. So me, I've taken it upon myself. Maybe it's high time I go get the scans and find out that I have all the organs and keep my documents. Should it happen in the future, in the unlikely event, I will have my documents to prove otherwise. Because right now, I'm not trusting anyone. And they say...
Can't count your internal organs.
Exactly. And they say, you know, doctors actually, you know, make this pledge to do no harm. They have sweared, I think with the Bible or whatever, to do no harm. Should we be thinking otherwise, that these guys are now starting to do any harm? But they are medics, you have to trust them. Because when you're lying on that surgery table, you have nothing to trust but this doctor. So we do respect them. But also I think they have to respect our privacy. And in such instances, you're going to court. And Philomena, talking about court, 13 people have come out to petition the annulment of the Computer Misuse Act.
Yes.
Some of those include journalists and lawyers. And it's interesting how the lawyers are actually also going along with this, because they actually believe that it is unfair somewhere, somehow. And as journalists, I would understand their part of view, because they're saying that, you know, they should be given a right to speak about anything. That is what journalism is all about. Bring out the facts. But what if the facts are not good to someone, are not good to hear, and they will want to use the law or that act to actually, you know, take them to court? What are they supposed to do? I think this is where they are coming from. But we are yet to see whether a court gives them the time of the day. But it is within their rights to actually, you know, petition or even protest. But I think there's a lot of mishaps about this Computer Misuse Act, because most people are actually thinking it's all about social media, whatever you post, but there is a lot that even within your following, you could actually be faulted. And I am waiting to see how that turns out for sure.
Well, actually, the very many explanations that came in from the very many people were saying that there is quite a lot of contradictions that are embedded in this act, and they believe that it's actually not straight, it's not sketchy, it is a bit selective when it comes to being implemented, and they were spotting quite a number of loopholes in it. But anyway, we'll be discussing more of that much later on in the Good Morning Uganda newsreel. But for now, I would really want to know, Felix, if this gentleman knows whether he has 2 kidneys or not, because you never know what could be happening. Good morning, Felix.
Good morning, Philo. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. How's your morning?
Good. Are you certain you have your 2 kidneys?
Well, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I know.
Do you have proof?
Yeah, you need to doubt.
Trust me.
Without the medical papers, you might need to actually have a doubt.
I actually feel sorry for you women more than men. Because I had a discussion in relation to the same, and my worry is for the women who normally go for C-sections. And, you know, people giving birth in some of these very lousy hospitals, you find that you're more prone, and this is what we're telling most of our girls and women or wives, before you go to have these births, you need to have a thorough check of your body, because there are also allegations that this normally happens to women who are undergoing child delivery. That's a good opportunity for medics
to do their thing.
Yeah, to do that kind of nonsense. But of course, clearly, we also need the government to come out clearly. There's a law, by the way, and that's one of the biggest challenges now to this. There's a law in relation to human organs, something selling and whatever. Very funny laws. I don't know why some of lately we are delving ourselves into some of these things. We are limping ahead of our abilities. But this is unfortunate. On the 2 cases Robert has mentioned, one of the Saudi Arabia, they say the lady didn't have the kidney, but she all has funny cuts around her belly, I don't know, now they were cutting her. It's tricky. This man went with a head that had a problem. Then why did they cut the side where the kidneys are? Like, what is it?
There was an explanation that was put there. Yes.
To get a part of the body that can be used on,
Yes.
on the head. And I wonder why they had to make an inner incision to get that, because
That's the
usually
thing.
those
Remember,
body parts
they
actually go
take
from the thighs or
the
but
buttocks,
specific.
you
Yeah.
Because
It's
I have a
odd,
family
I'm
member who
telling
has
you.
gone through such a process, and I know for a fact that they normally take from either, as you said, from the femur area and or the buttocks. Probably had a small buttock, but anyway, that all now is for
We
argument's
will have to
case.
get a medic to come and give us a clear explanation how this procedure
But it is very
works.
unfortunate.
Very, very
This
sad
that is
and
starting,
unfortunate.
we hope that police has done its thorough investigations.
It says according to the CT scan carried out.
Well, the CT scan before or after? do they have the one before?
And you see, that's why
I'm just a messenger.
and
I'm
that's
just
why the
getting it.
confusion is, because now you have you only have the results for the after, but you don't have before.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for you to compare. What are you comparing to
your
in
word
the first
against
place?
the medics.
Yes.
Secondly, that causes a lot for all of us, for the kind of hospitals we go to be more vigilant is key when we take our people to hospitals. In as much as we go to seek medical attention, let us also be very, very attentive. Personally, I have a practice. I don't know how people feel about it. For the few times I've been me and my family have been in the labor ward, I'm always present in the labor ward. I'm always there, like, for all that time. It's something I took upon myself to do. Probably just in case there's anything that has to be done,
Yeah.
you know, also probably to give courage to the other person. So, but probably in that process, you also protect a lot of things that could go wrong.
Yes.
You know, this kind, you know, you ask questions, you're like,
But what's exactly what is
Yes,
that
like,
that
what
you're
are you
doing?
doing
I
exactly?
don't think
Like-
this is necessary, but please educate me.
But Felix, sometimes I've ever been there once, and I hope Felix is brave enough. But sometimes it's just like going to the garage, and you think because you're there, the mechanics won't steal parts.
trust me, it makes a difference. They may steal, but not as much as
They could when
that's
you
the
are
thing.
there. Okay.
That one I can tell you for a fact. Man, you just have to be inquisitive. This is your money.
however-
nigga is taking stuff. You ask, hey, you brought the issues of the tire.
Yeah.
Guy is opening the steering. You're like,
I thought my
However, when
issue
you're
was
working
with
with
the,
this
you know, with the tire.
hey,
What
guy
are
will
we
be
doing
taking a
by
side
the
mirror,
steering
the
wheel?
issues with the tire. You're like, yeah.
But you guys, I've also considered the fact that if we're talking about women in these labor wards, in a comparison, this is a place where they don't allow any relative to get in at that particular time if
They
they're
don't?
going
They
for,
do.
for
I've been
surgery.
there.
Mollen,
I am
yes.
telling you, some of those complicated surgeries, they will
Mollen.
not allow you to be there. A time will come when
For
they're like,
labor,
no, no, no.
at least for labor,
In surgery, anyway, I
For
haven't
labor,
seen
I've
it
been-
personally,
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
you know, if they are going for surgery, but I would hope that is the moment they would easily harvest the organs, and for you as family members, you're not aware of
I
what
think
is
it also
happening.
depends on
You
which
think they are
hospitals you
probably
go to.
trying.
Yeah.
But will you even understand, Robert, if
The
they
only
are
thing is
removing
understanding,
anything?
but like
You will
Felix
think they're
said-
actually getting out a baby.
like Felix said, your presence could
Man, how dense
somehow,
would you be?
because most
Not that
hospitals,
this
by
is
the
a
way,
baby,
now,
This is an organ.
Yes.
Dear.
private hospitals, they allow the spouse, the husband to be there, and even you cut that, what is it called? They give you,
The
when the
umbilical
baby, yeah,
cord.
they
What?
give you,
Speak.
the umbilical cord. They give you that and you cut it as the dad. So most good private hospitals now accept that.
Now
so
the
you,
problem
So you
comes
have
with the
to add
public
good.
hospitals.
Public
But
hospitals,
how many people
they'll
can
tell
afford
you,
to go
take
to
away
private
your-
hospitals?
How do you go to
No,
Morocco?
but also I
And
think
then
the
they're
problem
telling
is
you
that
to-
most recent,
some
in
of
relation to basically maternity issues,
Yes.
a challenge with, I think men don't give time to these processes, I think. It's not about hospitals and what, most of the men are not interested. Honestly, as long as they
Some of them
facilitate you
don't have the
go,
courage.
they never go with you to
to-
antenatal.
the right
They're like,
word.
not even courage. They're
Oh,
just
courage,
not
right.
interested. They're waiting to
even
name.
After the firstborn, they move on.
They don't even look at that particular moment. They're just like, okay, they are praying.
Anyway,
But of course, it's not very easy to be in the maternity
Yeah. Oh.
where they give birth. This is like, now that I talk about, doesn't make it look like it's just a walkover. There are slaps, there are pinches, there are what, there are
Anyway,
abuses. there are-
I would
There's-
really want to hear your
above all, there's
experience much
sweating.
later on.
Sweating, they
Well,
give you that
they are normally SCs,
to
but
put on. Oh, my friend, you have it on, but the way you're sweating. Because you don't go with clothes.
Anyway,
so they also give you something.
Robert
It is an
and Felix,
experience.
I will give you some time to go and sit, have coffee and share your experiences with each other. But at least for now, we'll also be going through some of the stories, what has been happening when it comes to the news spectrum. And right now, we'll be starting off with the local stories.
Well, and we kicked off with the expectations of the French president to be in Uganda next year in January as the NRM celebrates their Victory Day. Now, President Museveni is set to invite his French counterpart, His Excellency Emmanuel Jean Macron, for an official visit to Uganda next year when Uganda will be celebrating the NRM Liberation Day, observed on the 26th of January each year, also commonly known as the National Liberation Day. The holiday marks the overthrow of the previous governments by the National Resistance Movement on this day in 1986. The president was meeting the outgoing French ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency Juris Hamd Aminabsu, who called on him at State House Entebbe. He informed the president that his 3-year diplomatic tour of duty to Uganda had come to an end and applauded the cordial relationship that exists between Uganda and France. He is now headed to Ghana, where he will serve his next 3 years as ambassador of France to that particular West African country.
Now, a team of Ministry of Health together with World Health Organization, UNICEF and CDC have visited Kasanda and Mubende district to assess the Ebola outbreak and measures in place to curb the disease. Minister of Health Dr. Ruth Acheng, who also was leading the Strategic Committee on Ebola Response, commissioned Madudu Isolation Facility in Mubende district to begin admitting suspected cases of Ebola before heading to Kasanda, where she addressed the Ebola health team and community. The visit comes after another health worker succumbing to the deadly virus at Mubende Hospital, bringing the number of the cumulative confirmed deaths at 24 after 5 new deaths were recorded in the last 4 days.
And moving on, Uganda has been alerted on the surge in malaria infections, with reports indicating that Uganda registers 30 deaths each day due to malaria. During the launch of the mosquito net distribution exercise in Chikuba Mutwe, Kabalagala, spearheaded by the Rotary Club of Muyenga, it was revealed that the Ministry of Health has renewed efforts in fighting malaria.
Senior candidates have begun Uganda's certificate of examinations with mathematics paper 1 in the morning and paper 2 in the afternoon. Now in Kampala, the exercise began with picking examinations from Old Kampala Police Station. UBC TV did visit some schools and students and administrations of various schools to give you a feel of how it was in the metropolitan.
On the international scene, we start off with former British military pilots who are being lured to China with large sums of money to pass on their expertise to the Chinese military, it is claimed. Up to 30 former UK military pilots are thought to have gone to train members of China's People's Liberation Army. The UK is issuing an intelligence alert to warn former military pilots against working for the Chinese military. Attempts to headhunt pilots are ongoing and had been ramping up recently, Western officials say. A spokesperson from the Ministry of Defense say the training and the recruiting of pilots does not breach any current UK law, but officials in the UK and other countries are trying to deter the activity. It is a lucrative package that is being offered to people, said one Western official. Money is a strong motivator. Some of the packages are thought to be as much as £37,911, equivalent to $270,000. The retired British pilots are being used to help understand the way in which Western planes and pilots operate, information which could be vital in the event of any conflict, such as over Taiwan. Well, moving on to Paris, the city has been shocked by a murder of Lola, 12 years, found in a box. Now, Parisians have been stunned by the shocking murder of a 12-year-old schoolgirl whose body was found on Friday in a container in the courtyard of her apartment building. The girl, named Lola, had spent the day normally at school, but her father raised the alert when she failed to return home in the afternoon. Later in the evening, the presence of a transparent plastic packing box was reported at the foot of the apartment building, a residential block in the 19th arrondissement, where Lola's father is employed as a concierge. Lola's body was found squashed inside the container, hidden by a covering of material. Her hands and feet were tied, and she was reported to have a gash on her neck. Through the autopsy this weekend found she had died of asphyxiation. 2 post-it notes were also on her feet, one saying 0 and the other saying 1. Early on Saturday, police arrested the main suspect in the killing of this little girl in a press as Dahbia B.
Away from that, Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan has expressed concern over the high birth rate in the East African community and urged citizens to take up birth control measures. It is a major reversal from the position of her predecessor, the late John Magufuli, who openly encouraged women not to use contraception. President Samia confronted the country's baby boom over the weekend while visiting the western region of Geita. Now, she was told that in Buselese ward in Geita region, one center produces 1,000 children a month. Now, how many classes will be needed after 3 years? What of health centers? How many will be needed to serve all these children? How many tons of food will be needed? Let us reduce the speed and have control on this, urged the president. Now, in 2018, while at a rally in western parts of Tanzania, former President Magufuli described those who use contraception as lazy. And in 2016, after the launch of free primary and secondary education in the country, he said women can throw away their contraceptives. Education is now free. A 2020 World Bank estimate said that Tanzania's fertility rate was at 4.8 births per woman, and the high birth rate was attributed to early marriages and low contraceptive use. And weather and climate news, East Africa hit by drought, yet Kenya's Lake Turkana is flooding. While Kenya's Lake Turkana is expanding rapidly despite 4 failed rainy seasons, devastating the livelihoods of pastoralists hit by the effects of man-made climate change, reports from BBC Newsnight. Now, as she hits on the parched, cracked earth that used to be her pasture, Anna Elibit is a woman living on the edge. Just a few yards from where she was speaking is a scene that looks like something from a horror movie. Dozens of goat grasses lie in the dust, and their rotting forms a testament to the intolerable drought that is part of northwestern Kenya that they have had to endure for more than 2 years. This is the worst drought I've ever witnessed in my lifetime, the 40-year-old told BBC. Along with much of East Africa, Lake Turkana region has now had 4 failed rainy seasons, killing hundreds of thousands of animals and pushing millions of people to a brink of starvation. What is extraordinary about Miss Elibit's situation, however, is that a few months earlier, she lost hundreds more animals, not to drought, but to flooding.
Well, I will really talk about what is happening in Tanzania, you know, what the president is actually advocating for when it comes to high population. I honestly buy into that idea, and I believe for one that Uganda maybe should also adopt that kind of strategy, because at the end of the day, we all know the impacts of a high population. And seeing as right now, our own country's population standing at more than 46 million people, according to the current statistics, I don't know, what do you think about this? Honestly, maybe Robert, you could have something to say about this.
Well, I believe in quality, not quantity. And one of the ways is have a few population that you can manage, you can plan for, than having a huge population which is less productive. I think when people have fewer children, they are able to look after them. When people have so many children, at one point they can't just manage these numbers, and then they will begin with whatever, they begin looking at funny, quoting funny sources and all that, you know. But when you have few children, you can easily plan for them. The little you have, you can share with. So for me, I believe in children by choice, not by chance. Unfortunately, if you made a rough estimate, maybe some were by chance, not by choice. But they are there.
Well, honestly, I also really buy into that. Like I did say, I subscribe to it. But anyway, speaking of population, there are also matters related to health when it comes to a very large population. And with that, obviously, we are here to make sure that your health is always doing quite well, to avoid and prevent all that we can, at least from this very stage. And the gentleman here has some two.
Definitely, I have bottles. These 3 lovely bottles. Hallelujah, tamarind drink. Now, this is very good, especially for our brothers and sisters that enjoy some bit of drinking and you have to work. There's so much on your head. Well, this has got tamarind, which will help you sort that. Though we recommend responsible drinking. Don't drink saying Kirabo has a way out there. No. But also have, hallelujah, a banana juice. This is so tasty. It brings back that for people who used to take what we call mobisi, that was made out of bananas and worked on properly, feet and all that. So there is a bit of this, and of course there is molondo there for you, and a lot of ingredients that you need, and they will boost your immune system. Now, for those that love ginger, we have, hallelujah, ginger tea drink. Now, this will clear your throat. It is very sweet as well, but also boost your immune system. So the choice is up to you. There are 3, all go for 1,500. Any supermarket, any retail shop, go and get yourself these drinks. Remember, prevention is always better than cure. Prevent your body from falling sick. Save those monies. Take me for lunch.
Via mobile money.
Definitely.
Quality children by what? By what? Really?
Take the man for
Let
lunch.
the man have it.
That's savings. I've given it. It would just be very good to say that. I used to spend 300 every week. Now, Robert, I've saved that money. What is your number? Send.
If you allow me to say something, Philo, sorry, just about what
I'm
you said.
not allowing
earlier.
you to say
okay,
something.
That's fine.
We're going in for an inspiration.
You know what I was going to say.
Song on this Tuesday morning. When we get back, we'll be talking more about the Computer Misuse Act, and I could say this one is quite a hard one. It has knocked very many people down, and I must say that people are not happy. While a fraction of people believe that yes, it was high time, there is another fraction that says, well, this one is a bit selective on who it is going to be affecting. We'll be back with more discussions on that. Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to another great morning here on Good Morning Uganda. It is the 18th of October 2022. I must say that this one is starting off on a quite interesting note. Well, much later on I'll be explaining why I think it's quite an interesting one. But hey, welcome back. We are here yet to discuss, to have fun, and also to be in the know what's happening around you. Well, I must say today being the second day of UNEB, we're lucky that yesterday did go on so well. There were not really so many major issues that were pointed out by UNEB as the UCE candidates here of Uganda sat for their examinations. We can only hope and pray that the second day will also go on seamless without any major hindrances. And once again, I just want to congratulate all the schools that were able to have their candidates finally sit. Of course, apart from a few instances where we did see some students miss out on sitting these examinations, mainly because some of the head teachers of these respective schools did not commit fully and they didn't pay the fees that they were bound to pay. Why? Well, because they thought maybe using that money for their personal needs was way more than considering what the money was supposed to be doing, especially when it comes to the children's welfare. It's quite very sad and unfortunate that we are still having such incidents, and I hope that the law can prevail and justice can be given, especially to these students who missed out on their final examination. But all that up and above, there is quite a lot happening. When we go to the UK, Liz Truss is actually sitting on a very hot one because a number of MPs have started sending in letters and asking her to resign. From the time she got into this position, things haven't really been going on fairly well for her, and I can say that it's quite evident the people are not happy. We're yet to see what is about to happen to her. Will she sit this one out or not? Good morning once again, and we do have the whole panel this morning. I do have Mollen, I do have Felix, and of course Robert. Maybe to start off with you, Robert. Good morning, how are you doing?
I'm very fine. Good morning, team. Good morning, our viewers, and thank you so very much for waking up with us this lovely Tuesday morning. Mollen, so much happened yesterday, and as a journalist, when there's so much news around, I really enjoy my work. So right from senior 4 exams that you began with, we saw in Kibuku district a 36-year-old man, another one 30, sit for their exams. Yeah. It's never too late. Never too late. Never too late indeed. But also, still interestingly, with enforcement of Ebola guidelines in Mubende, police have so far impounded 200 motorcycles and 28 vehicles.
Slides, drought, food insecurity. His Excellency the President has been very passionate about this, and he has explained the effect of destroying our natural resources, especially the wetlands and cutting the forests. As cabinet, as government, we have approved a 10 years restoration program. We are going to provide alternative sources of livelihood, and the call is that people should leave the wetlands. And we have started from today evicting people from Lubiji wetlands, and we are going to roll out the whole country. Our prayer is that those who have not yet been reached, please live peacefully. We are going to provide alternative source of livelihood as a government. Those who are still engaged in manufacturing and selling the plastic, especially the illegal non-buveras, we are going to close onto them. They are also a menace to our country. We look forward very soon having sodas back in the breakable bottles rather than the plastics which are being thrown all over to litter. I want to call upon Ugandans, let's conserve and let's use sustainably our natural resources. I thank you.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Water and Environment, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Uganda National Meteorological Authority, with support from Government of Uganda, Green Climate Fund, and the United Nations Development Programme.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone, the most affordable smartphone in Uganda. You get to enjoy free 1 GB for 1 whole year. My Airtel 4G smartphone, your best value for money. Visit the nearest Airtel outlet today and get one at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
4 minutes after 7 a.m. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Newsreel. And in this session, of course, we are discussing the Computer Misuse Act. Well, as we see it right now, it is official. It was assented to by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, we'll be discussing this myself, Philomena, Mastiko, Robert, and Felix. Now, before we get into it, just to let you know how you can be part of this discussion and conversation, get into our Twitter. We did ask you a question over there where we want to know, do you think the Computer Misuse Act will reduce cyberbullying? Do you think the Computer Misuse Act will reduce cyberbullying? Do you think that we'll be yielding some results from it? Do you think it will control all the cyberbullying that has been happening? Share with us. We'll be sharing again your opinions with the rest of the Good Morning Uganda family. But for now, we get into the main discussion this morning. Now, like I did say earlier on, this bill was passed by Parliament about 8th, I think it was on 8th of September 2022. But now, as we speak, of course, it has been turned into an act. And it was also fronted by Kampala Central MP Muhammad Nsereko. And I could say that this same act has quite a number of Ugandans divided. Why? Because of what is in it, okay? What does it criminalize, and some of the measures it takes. Maybe just to take you through some of it. This very same act does have quite some very, very strict measures when it comes to people who send malicious information, people who record children without their parents' consent, people who give unsolicited information, and also there is quite a very heavy punishment that is bound to be given to a culprit. You could actually walk away with 15 million Uganda shillings, or you could actually walk away with some time of imprisonment. We're talking about 7 years. Or in any other scenario, there is a chance and a probability that you could have to serve too. You pay the fine of 15 million Ugandan shillings, but you also serve jail time. But also, speaking of other things that are incorporated in this act, it does criminalize a number of other things, and this is where the major issue is: writing, sending, or sharing of any information through a computer, which is likely to ridicule or degrade, create divisions, and also creating differences in ethnicity, religion, amongst people of different tribes, amongst people of different religions. All that has been put in this act. And this is where human rights activists actually claim that this one is a bit very selective. And they believe that, the main intention, yes, there is a good point in it, but the intention is not meant for what it is supposed to be doing. And this is where I would really want Felix and Robert maybe to come in and just, share their 2 cents on this. Maybe to start off with you, Robert. What is your thought about this Misuse Act, the Computer Misuse Act, before we get into the nitty-gritties where people are sharing their differences?
Well, I must say we had laws. And the challenge of our government is not lack of laws, but it is implementation. When you look at some of the laws we had in our country, when they were used, for example, some of the areas this law talks about, this act talks about, we already have other seemingly laws that serve the same purpose. The only challenge has been implementation. For example, which law do we use to arrest Kirabo? The likes of Stella Nyanzi. This lady recently, who is in detention over the death of General Eritumwine, who said to have which law did we use? When we go to child protection, we have a law. Right to privacy in terms of data, it is very clear we have data protection law. So, to me, I cease to be excited of laws that we have, but rather how we implement them. Uganda have so many laws and very good laws, but have we implemented them? Let me give you an example. When the UPDF gazetted the red ballot as part of their uniform, you remember that?
Yes.
Part of the army attire. People are arrested for putting on the red ballots. Today people go on TV shows, go everywhere. move in town with red berets. How many have been arrested? Isn't it? We have the sound pollution law in this country under NEMA. I think it was used on few pastors because they were neighboring some VIPs who felt there is noise for them. You get it? Then they arrested them, paraded them. You get it? Everywhere in town there is noise. So it is not laws. It is the will to enforce, to implement. And second, are we having universal implementation or is it selective? For example, the young boys who were paraded before the court martial with red berets, charged, spent about 3 years there, so on. How today do they know and their relatives when they see prominent new people on TV shows with red berets, they are hosted, they go out, they drive, they go to celebrations.
Yes.
You get it? So, implementation. These laws are as good as nothing if they are not implemented or if they are selectively. And I think this is the fear of many people. That this thing we are seeing here, it could be good, but how is it going to be used? You get it? Second, about this law, briefly, like I said, is definition of certain words. You know?
Yes.
Because my counsel here usually tells me, in a law you have to be specific. These ambiguities, these blank statements.
Yes.
Who defines hate speech? Who defines the things you've talked about? The law pointed out, but didn't come. I've been consulting a number of councils to help me understand, because I'm in the media profession.
What is considered as hate speech or not?
What the law put certain things, but didn't clearly define them, what they mean. So to me, I am not excited. Actually, I'm a bit hesitant to love and appreciate, despite the fact that I see the need for maybe better laws because of the nonsense that is happening all over. But I feel this then is not the cure to that.
Okay. Now, we already do have, we are witnessing a number of petitioners, okay? We have about 13 petitioners, and among us these we have human rights activists. We also do have digital media houses. We do have some lawyers, you know, who actually believe that there is a problem with this. They're they intend to defy some of the outlines in this law. But again, when you look at it, I feel like they're representing, again, some issues that have been fronted by a number of other people who believe that maybe this law was put out in bad faith and maybe to cover up some of the criminal acts of people, of our leaders, who maybe we owe, actually, who we should be asking for when it comes to accountability. Now, Felix, do you feel like that the petitioners have quite a fertile ground and also a very valid reason as to why they are petitioning this law?
Well, this particular law has caused what we call a sweet-sour sensation. I don't know if you have ever had a moment of that.
I will tell you, it is usually one of my favorites. Okay.
Please go submission. Go ahead with this.
You can't be comfortable. You can't be comfortable.
I mean, it's a sweet sour one,
yes.
or it's a good. Normally,
sweet sour pill.
Robert, if I'm to bring it closer to grammar or the twist of the angle, one would call it a good problem. You know, why I say it's a sweet sour sensation? Most recent times, we need to appreciate that one of the validities of enactment of laws is to address the changing times. And that's a matter of fact, without a doubt. But the other one is also to address an observed mischief. It will be foolhardy for the legislators or the leaders of a country to observe that there's a mischief that is taking place and they pretend like they don't see it. So that also informs legislation. But third is that legislation, for it to be good or valid or sensible, must be qualified by about 3 or 4, even 7, depending on different scholars. But for some of us who have picked from scholars like Montesquieu, Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, they give us various yardsticks for what a good law is. And one, a good law must be common. commonality is key.
Yes.
And the realms of commonality will bring you into the jurisprudence of absence of disregard. It must be able to be appreciated equally. It mustn't be targeting a particular sect. So let us judge our beautiful law on those yardsticks. One, is it against? Is it common? Do we all as Ugandans feel that we really need such a law at a time like this? That is a question for us to answer. But second, it must not be against natural justice. And that's one of the fundamental qualifications of legislation. We must check the laws based on that standard. That is this law bringing any injustice against natural justice? But what is natural justice, for example, for our viewers? This is some of the God-given rights that we appreciate by the realm of being human beings. Or one would call, does it attack the human sensitivity? Does this law do that? Mm-hmm. That's why I'm telling you, it's a sweet sour. The law has a couple of sections. Of course, some of my colleagues, and I've had many litigants pick out particular ones for purposes of argument. And of course, many of them have said it's a replication of many, because when you talk about slander, slander is covered. Defamation, defamation is covered. My brother Bob brings into play a word called hate speech, which has been failed to be defined legally. But I think we shall, you see, in law, when you look in an interpretation, we consider various aspects. We have the literal definition. Most times it is normally under Section 2 of the Act. They give you those definitions. But if you fail, we can go into precedents. We don't know if there's a case that has been decided in relation to that, so that will become our yardstick of defining hate speech. We are yet to find out. However, skipping these legal jargons and the legalese, the rhetorical clinches about the law, because that's not what Ugandans want. We want us to understand generally what is the intention of this law, what has backed the need of this law. In my opinion, there's a crisis, and that's a matter of fact. And all of us will allude to the fact that there is a crisis. The crisis emanates from the failure of most Ugandans who have the ability to access what we call computers, or who are able to publish as per the definition in terms of publication, and I think which has also been bastardized by this act. The Ugandans who are able to publish do not have the ability to understand what publication is, and therefore or thereafter the effects of publication. That's why this law has been concrete in these times. Today, why we are acknowledged as a crisis? One, by far today, almost everyone has been a victim, almost, not necessarily, of cyberbullying, either by by relationship, by annexing, by whatever. There's been an effect of cyberbullying. I don't know about you, but some of us have been victims.
Yes.
But there's also another question. Should we categorize this cyberbullying as a freedom of speech? If you look at most of these petitions that you did talk about, Philo, they are bringing about a contravention of a human rights appreciation in relation to freedom of
speech.
The big question is, if I say, I don't want to say Philo, you're very beautiful. If I say to a woman that you look a particular way, and that's the truth of the matter, but that doesn't land well with them, would I have slandered? Those are the gaps now that contravene the two. As I say, it's a sweet sour sensation that we because of the failure to give true borderlines of what the law must do, we are giving so much power, and I think this is intended, I'm sorry to say, for what Robert talked about earlier. Probably people will fear to say probably political reasons. of power reasons. Let me not say political, but sometimes it's about people who have the power, not necessarily politicians, but anyone who has the power.
You could have the power,
could be
but
financial.
not be a politician.
Yeah, power
Yes.
could be in size, that you use your size to intimidate. But whoever has the power in whichever form, this law would work for them, in my opinion. Because when you say that words like hate speech, the yardstick can only be determined by those who sit in the confines to make the final remark about the debate. So you're giving so much power to the judicial officers. If you come that day, Philo, and you don't look very beautiful to them, they may qualify you to have been. You've heard this saying, haven't you had type who say that?
Oh, yes.
Now, how does someone look argumentative? How does that, how do you judge
How does
me?
that even work?
That's the thing. Because in a country like this, it's a big deal. How do you look that character? Unless you're doing a role play in a movie or you get it.
You must have really a basis.
And these are some of
upon
the
which you're
things.
saying some of these things.
Have you heard
If I may add to.
Just, you know, just a rejoinder to what you've said. Have you heard of preventative arrest?
Absolutely.
That's someone feels there and determines that if this man, today Felix is walking out,
May cause problems.
so we choose to arrest him. And
But
it is-
probably sometimes they have, it's called intelligence, they have
Intelligence.
And who
But
judges
even
it?
then,
So, for security purposes, Robert, may be different, by the way. Sometimes
and
it
many
works in
others,
the good for
because
the country.
Felix, for me, I've been looking at some of the sections here, because the amendments are about 5 of them. And listen carefully. So that, 1, enhancing the provision on unauthorized access to information or data to strengthen the protection of the right to privacy. That anyone would want, that my privacy, you go, but then you come here, prohibit the sharing of any information related to a child without authorization from a parent or guardian or any other person having authority to make decision on behalf of the child. Now here, for example, Philo, if I see this child is in danger, we've had people who have gotten these clips, you see, but I've not got authority from the parent. Maybe she's being beaten or battered very well. I get this, record and share. You know, either action is taken or not. But my intentions are to create awareness of what is happening.
yes.
That will be an offense.
And I get your point, because we have seen even some of our own regulatory bodies. We have seen Uganda police use some of these clips that have been shared on social media to look for all these victims and even ensure that they give the justice where it's due. So now what happens if some of the institutions have been able to use some of this content that the law is actually prohibiting or putting quite a lot of gatekeeping?
Now we go to prohibiting of sending or sharing information that promotes hatred. Now, who determines? That is what I want Felix to tell us. Who determines that this information promotes hatred? You have provide for prohibition of sending or sharing misleading, malicious, and unsolicited information. Misleading, malicious, and unsolicited information. So, what is unsolicited? You get, where do we get the yardstick? Because it's a profession we are in. You must know where will this be malicious.
What are your perimeters? What do I say?
But
What
then
do
you
I
go
not
to
say?
restricting a person. Okay. So there are keywords in this.
No, but I think also, away from just castigating this law, we must also believe that there's an iota of truth in every other thing. In as much as it could, the latter could be to the extreme of absence. But I know that there's a very big gap of professional lack of conduct in this country. And you know this is a big scourge for us who do rub shoulders in the corporate world, later on in the informal sector. And for us, people who, for you, in fact, who are journalists by profession, you know that most recently there's been a lot of abuse. We talk about this every day. We need to go back to what do the ethics of journalism say. Today you have journalists who are, you know, Everyone is a journalist in the 21st
Actually,
century.
with the opening of the social media, everyone
Becomes a journalist. We have now the categories of, previously we used to know traditional medias, but now we have bloggers, you guys, waters,
The digital media houses, yes.
Every Tom, Dick and Harry has a right to own a channel, to post what. And I think in as much as there are challenges with the law, but we must regulate to maintain sanity. Who has a right to report? Now, that person can only be qualified when they know how the world. See, people studied these things. I've been privileged to lecture a bit of it.
The 5 W's and
you know exactly. Thank you. So, but do we address these when we are reporting? I think in as much as they are challenged, but there's an iota of truth in relation to this. The reason, you remember what happened in Rwanda, and this has been quoted time and again.
Rwanda, Kenya.
The genocides.
Yes.
Go to the 2007 riots. It is about people who bring the kind of information. So we have Charlie, that's why I told you it's a sweet sour. We have, I think the law was a bit unscrutinized well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
But it's a 50-50. The 50% of the things that have been passed, we need them, Robert, let's believe. Today in this country, in as much as people will pretend like, you see, the problem in this country, people who want to be popular, they will always try to be against everything. And I've seen many of them. You know, how dare, and I saw some politicians, how do you come and say that announcing someone being dead, yet they are not dead, is not a big deal?
That would be madness.
Yes. That's the latter category of being a bogus person. Now,
yes.
that happens every day. You've seen that from the king to the president. And these are some of the evidences that we have a mischief to cover. That's the truth of the matter. The people who want to use these forums, honestly, must be on alert. Because the duty of the state is always to protect the vulnerable. Okay?
Yes.
Now, because we can't say that people have a right to speech. That's okay. But your rights must stop.
But also maybe, and I really get your point, which is very valid, but also the worry here is that much as we are collecting all these, you know, the population, there are people who are in certain positions where people maybe feel like this law could be, they could be beyond above this law. And that is the worry. The worry is that it could be a bit selective. You're a Ugandan, whether you're in a position of power or not. Yes, and that is where it causes quite a lot of confusion and a lot of dissatisfaction from the Ugandans who are really criticizing it so hard, and they've decided to walk to the court and yes, and appeal. But anyway, the poll question is still running, where we do want to hear from you. Do you think this Computer Misuse Act will, at least reduce cyberbullying, because this one is one of the biggest
I think it has already reduced. Everyone is careful now.
But although I feel like maybe there is a fraction of Ugandans who have just decided to find a way of working around it.
They will arrest them, trust me.
Even away with
yes.
I think for me, when I listen to all this debate about this law, one of the things I look at, what have we done with the existing laws? I want to tell you where we've wanted to arrest either state or individuals, they have been able to arrest. Even with the laws that we have. I've given you the likes of Kakwenzi, Stella Nyanzi. I can give you the likes recently. There was this young blogger, is it called Safe Court? When you follow, when one says, I will arrest you.
So it's simply about who you have insulted.
It's about who you've insulted.
You insult some of us who no one knows.
No one knows.
No one is really bothered.
But talk about social media. People even with the law, the old law as it were, right. It was just enough. The problem we are having here is, when do we pick on the law to use it?
Yes.
I want to tell you, there was a time in this government, in this country, where anyone would say anything to the head of state, until he woke up and said, I think enough is enough. So, having laws in our law book does not mean that they are going to change situations unless we enforce them. Then second, the fear of selective enforcement. I want to give you a simple example of people who take time to bother. We have this app called TikTok. There you have people who have become prominent because of abusing people. Very prominent. And some have even gotten big titles in the government, awarded big titles.
Oh, really?
Yes. There's one lady I want to mention the name.
Them what?
For her, she will abuse anything. The same woman went to court and arrested a young man.
Yes.
Zitko, safeguard, whatever, for what she called abusing her, insulting her, using social media. Police courts arrested this young man.
I don't think they should abuse again, Robert, after this law.
Maybe after this law.
Yeah, she wants
But even after arresting this young man, taking him through the torture, the lady goes back because she's somewhere, an advisor, still does the same thing. So this selectiveness is the fear for Ugandans.
No, but I think, Philo, for me, we just have to be careful.
Yes.
This law will help us instill respect and a bit of morality in people. Lately, we have lost both of those things. How we address other people.
Impunity.
Anyway,
we need to be careful.
We do have
I think
a
that's
comment
universal
coming in from
enforcement.
Derek here, who is
enforcement.
saying that I personally don't have any problem with this law. Trust social media had turned to the source of insult when it comes to blackmail, when it comes to vulgar pornography and spreading a false news. So yes, we needed regulation, and those who think this law will enslave them, in most cases, those are the guilty ones. And Ugandans should note this law is not targeting a certain group of people as they think. It can work on anyone, be it in government or not. Well, as we are winding up this one, all I want, personally, I want it to be implemented generally. I don't want it to be selective. Whether you're a Ugandan, whether you're in a position of power, whether you are a basic person, the law should apply to you.
Never fallen victim of those social media kids.
I don't want to give my experience. Anyway, we are going in for the press review right after this break. Good morning, Uganda.
Stay connected on the largest 4G network in Uganda using the Airtel 4G Pocket MiFi at only 75,000 Uganda shillings. It comes with 15 GBs free, valid for a month. You can connect up to 10 of your friends and family at a go. Visit the nearest Airtel shop to get one today or call 0800 333 330 for free delivery within Kampala. Dial *175 *9# to activate free 15 GBs. Airtel, the smartphone network.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week, we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. 1 is for construction of my house, 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
And in the press review this morning, starting off with the Daily Monitor, Museveni 6 meeting with France over Congo, and of course in terms of peace and having talks regards to peace, our president says plans are in the pipeline to invite his French counterpart next January to, among other things, discuss a way of resolving intermittent conflicts in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which has drawn in regional powers. Ebola lockdown bites, border ban slows O-level examinations. And looking at, of course, the UCE candidates of Bishop Cyprian Chihanjiri School, Secondary School in Luzira, Kampala, in the picture over there. Now, in more news, journalists, activists in court over computer law. Could this be an unconstitutional law? Well, a section of the concerned lawyers, journalists and human rights activists yesterday petitioned the Constitutional Court challenging the newly assented to Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022, arguing that, well, it is unconstitutional. And in more news, remain relevant in politics. Noob tells women. Onto the second page of the Daily Monitor, Ebola kills another health worker. And how schools can respond and manage Ebola cases. There is a writer for you to read through and pick a few things here and there. Now, today in history, Better Water Sources Survey launched in Karamoja back in 1965.
Now, we cross over into the New Vision. They're giving you Ebola updates right there. 5 more succumbed to the virus. 40 contacts traced in Kibuku. 5 arrested as lockdown bites. Police impounded 225 vehicles. Mobenda MPs complain. That is all detailed on page 4 and 27. Also, they give you a big headline right there. Museveni opens up on taxation. Mao Mohozi. Well, that is also detailed on page 3 as President rallies Africans for unity, peace. Well, residents feel the pinch of lockdown. They give you a picture right there about a policeman being confiscating the keys of a border rider in Mobende district, of course, after, the whole lockdown issue. Now, New Vision starts on a series of persons with disabilities as well. That is on page 6. They give you more stories right there. CID takes over kidney case. That is detailed on page 9. And in the libraries, minister explains sackings. Well, that story is on page 7. And also more in her vision. They give you a story of Ojangole right there, the banking trailblazer. Details are on stories on the pages of 33 to 35.
And Daily Monitor Sports, early questions for tax collectors. And in regards to the Uganda Premier League, looking at the lineup over there. And in the world of pool, weekend of ties as pool league returns. And I must say that Rogers Musinguzi of Club 408 executed move during the previous game in the picture over there. Quite very into the game. Astros Colts running out of time in the USL, that is the Uganda Swimming League. And golf, Bolim revels in Diani Juniors Open in Kenya. Talking about the Premier League, midweek fixture pressure is on. Arsenal and Man City take rest as midweek games add to fixture congestions for the rest of the lot.
And looking into the New Vision Sport as well, it looks like all eyes are on Ndeje. Well, talking about the East Africa University Games, Ndeje 2022, now the Federation of East Africa University Sports, the executive has this week been checking out on Ndeje University to check the readiness on whether they are ready to host the 12th edition of the East Africa University Games. That is due this December 16th to 21st. Well, a lot more there. We've also seen the minister also inspecting the area, making sure there is a lot of readiness for the games. Makerere University will enjoy the privilege of hosting the first ever International Council for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, Sports and Dance, and that will take place between the 25th to the 29th of October. They give you more details right there. But also inside the New Vision, Arsenal stays on the summit. Well, they are enjoying their position there on top of the table, aren't they? And it looks like there is also a lot more, of course, regarding Premier League and most of the weekly scoreboard for you with regards to other leagues.
Looking at the Daily Nation this morning, filthy rich hustlers. And vetting going on Kindiki, Ndugu, Chirchir, Jumwa and Courier First MPs today. This is, of course, the very first batch of 5 of President William Ruto's cabinet secretary nominees have a combined net worth of over 6 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, this one is quite a significant amount of wealth for the people that will man a government. The head of state had in the campaigns said would be pro-poor, but even as they declared the sources of their opulence, they mounted a spirited fight to clear their names as their past records in the public service came back to haunt them. Catch the full story on in the Daily Nation this morning. Is Gachagua's 7 billion Kenyan shillings graft case on verge of collapse? Going. Get yourself this full story over there in the Daily Nation. And looking at politician accused of husband's murder detained in probe. And getting onto the health realm, 40 TPC of adolescents suffer mental illness, says new study. No wonder they say that Africa is quite a village. Well, it's a mixed legacy for Kenya's elite police units. And many other stories. Quite an interesting paper this morning. Get yourself the Daily Nation and the Daily Monitor plus the New Vision. But also reminding you of our poll question where we want to find out from you, do you actually think that the law against computer misuse will reduce cyberbullying? Do you think the law against computer misuse will reduce cyberbullying? Hashtag UBCGNU, and you can go on and send a WhatsApp message on 0709 602592. But we do have some feedback that has already come in, and I do see a gentleman. Well, you call yourself God's crime. Okay. And you're saying, and the party in government will use it for its purposes. Meanwhile, only political issues will be handled using this law. Others will be ignored. Good morning. Okay, from you, James, you're saying yes. Okay, you truly believe it will do what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, and Jonas, you're saying it will never, because even Facebook is not working. But also, just maybe to let you know, James, there are other social media platforms that are still running, so anything could happen. But thank you so much for your feedback, and let the feedback continue flowing in. We'll be sharing with the rest of the viewers on what you think about this, and you can also be part of the discussion. But also, getting onto the traffic updates this morning, looking at areas of Boyogere as you progressing to Chireka and all the way to Nakawa and Lugogo to town. This morning, I hate to break it to you, but this road is very busy, very heavy with the traffic. When it comes to the areas of Boyogere, the traffic starts building up right on spot. We do have the red spots over here that have been quite very dominant, and around this junction where we do have cars that are connecting in from Mokono. We have cars coming in from Chobe Road over here, causing a bit of a stampede in this very specific place. So you will be expecting that traffic over there. Now, as you continue all the way to Chireka, you could decide to take the Chireka Road around the Nambola Stadium, or you could use the bypass. But either way, I must say that the traffic is on when it comes to both parts of the roads. We do have the traffic over here that is building, and as you're continuing all the way through Chireka, well, you need to be expecting a heavier bit of traffic over here. We do have Namugongo Road, cars coming in from over there. We do have cars that are coming in from Kamoli Road this side, and also trying to join the main road, which is the Kampala-Jinja Highway, which does not make it any better for you. So I must say that this one, you're going to have to dread it if it is the route you have opted to use. Looking at Chireka Road, well, over here the traffic is also the same story I have been talking about. Matter of fact, looking at this very pattern here, the traffic becomes heavier by the minute. So I must say it's quite a busy morning for almost everybody around this area. Looking at Kabaka Road here at Chireka Kabaka's Road stage, well, the traffic is doing quite a number over there. So please expect it and start planning accordingly. Well, the traffic actually stretches all the way via Chireka Road as you're continuing. It seems like every minute you go by, every minute that goes by, the traffic becomes heavier. We are seeing color transitions from red over here to maroon, showing you that the traffic becomes heavier. Well, continuing on Kampala Jinja Highway as you're headed towards Banda, we do have traffic several spots over here. We also do have cars that are trying to connect from Chambogo to get to the main road here, hence causing this bit of traffic. And as you continue via that route all the way to Nakawa, you will be coming across several traffic spots that are building up. You do have the orange shares here clearly showing you that. And continuing all the way via Chambogo Road, continuing to Nakawa, the traffic is quite a menace over here. We do have Ntinda Road where we have cars coming in. We do have cars connecting via Chinawataka Road to get to this very spot, and we're seeing the traffic over there. So I must say that this one is a very busy road for this part of the morning. Maybe as hours or minutes go by, it could become better. That's it from our traffic updates this morning. But also maybe just to let you know, I don't know, we did have the Nyonyintono festival here, Mollen. But the question is, what is next on UBC? Well, I don't want to be the one to break it to you, but make sure you are glued here to know what we have in stock for you right after that. Well, I leave you now officially to Mollen to give us more climate and weather updates, what's been happening. I've had people complaining, Mollen, about the rains, and now we've kind of mastered their timetable. Yeah. You know, the time is usually 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Yes, in the evening. What's happening? Why is the pattern changing all of a sudden?
Well, you look at the fact that we're now in the middle part of the rainy season, and obviously we do expect that there's going to be a sensation, meaning that the rains are going to be toning down unless, you know, if we look at the fact that some of these rains actually drop out of nowhere that are off the season. But for now, I say we get used to the changing trend. After all, we're also talking about climate change, meaning that some of these seasons are not as normal as we expected them to be. Philomena, if you look way some time back, we actually used to have most of those rains early in the morning across Lake Victoria.
Yes.
Every early morning, we were used to having those rains. But now that pattern has also changed. We're looking at rains that come in late in the afternoon. And if you ask me, maybe those are better than the morning ones?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think they are, as opposed to having confusion right at the start of your day. I would rather deal with the confusion much later on in the day. Well, I want to wish you a very wonderful Tuesday morning. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. Taking it from there, we're also looking at extreme rains that bring in flash flooding, and of course, most of the areas that have been dealing with, extreme flooding. We're talking about at least states that have had to deal with this for a lot of years, and one of them is actually the Philippines. Now, it looks like they're also adapting to the changing climate because, according to them, there is need to cope with the changing environment, which is why motorists over there have now had to adjust their taxis, meaning that they are now lifting them up. According to the latest development, the cyclists and the motorists across the city for the taxis, that is over the streets of the capital, Manila, have now raised their trucks to 2 feet above. That is keeping in mind that it is always going to be flooding across the streets. Well, it's a very interesting development, looking at the fact that Philippines has had to deal with the monsoon season that has caused a lot of flooding across the city. And of course, one of the town's problems right now, according to the officials, is the rapid rise in informal dwellings along the nearby river and lack of adequate waste management, which also adds to the problem because they have had continued rains pushing in flooding, but also the fact that there hasn't been a lot being done in terms of making sure that there is enough drainage from the city. Now, those ones outside the outskirts of the city are the ones suffering the damages. But they have also said, no, what? Enough is enough. We can do something about the way we move around this city, which is why folks have taken it upon themselves to actually lift their vehicles and ensure that the transport is not hindered even when this flooding happens. Now, it has become a new normal across the Philippines. And of course, talking about mostly the northern Philippines, where floods have become a perennial problem. And of course, motorcycle and taxi drivers are now looking for the ways out. Well, it is either dry and high so that they can avoid these floods, or they have to deal with the consequences, because at this point they are looking at a point where it's going to be continuing. And also the residents over there were saying that they now realize that this problem is not going to go away very soon, so meaning that they have to live by what is within their means right now, which is why they are coping to that. But also talking about extreme weather events, we've also seen blazing fire again erupting across Washington and over the forested area, which from the look of things is now looking like they have been contained. At least 20% of these wildfires have been contained. We're looking at mostly the eastern side of the Washington, of course talking about Vancouver as well, where this wildfire did erupt on Sunday. And from actually the latest developments, it looks like also the cool weather that is coming in, according to the National Weather Center, could be helping with putting out this fire. Now, firefighters also did hold out on getting off these fires, especially with temperatures being up and high, fueling into more wildfires. But so far, according to the officials, from yesterday, what they were able to contain, that is 20%, looking at over 1,000 acres of land that had burnt out. But so far, the statistics stand at 2,000 acres. And by Monday evening, at least the western states, that is the Washington State Department of Natural Resources, were talking about the fact that they could be looking at containing more of this, although they are not certain because this is subjective to weather changes. Now, Vancouver, that is the parts of Washington, has had to deal with most of these wildfires, and the forested area over there is almost gone because each year they have had a lot of wildfires, and most of those getting more intense than the last ones. Now, you look at the fact that drying out trees and also other plants that make fuel as warm temperature during the cold winter is also going to be a problem because most of this has now been taken off. But they're also looking at the extended extreme weather events in terms of drought and high temperatures and climate change having been a factor in these wildfires. And so far, about 3,000 households have been evacuated from the area. And of course, they're nearing several trailheads in the Yakult-Burn State Forest area, which has been mostly affected. Now, they're looking at the fact that if these temperatures continue being up and also looking at more of the wind patterns over the area, this could be burning more even to the Canadian border towards Columbian River. And of course, now the United States is looking at containing most of these fires that are coming up due to extreme weather events, but also the fact that they've had to deal with one thing after the other. Just from the hurricane, you have the extreme events there. And then on the other hand, you also have a drought crisis that is now in turn bringing in wildfires, which seems to be the problem right now. And of course, also adding the fact that they have had less in terms of containing most of these fires. But at least we do know that the United States has upped their game in terms of climate action. The Biden administration did actually annul out most of the statistics and most of the laws that were put across during the Trump administration, were trying to curb the climate extremes over the United States. And with the new law in place that the Biden administration did put in place, they're looking at more of how they can compensate for the changing environment and look at how they can actually move into clean energy. That is one step that the United States has done towards making sure that we have enough climate action. But also looking into what has been happening, it seems like people are also not seated there saying, yes, we're seeing extreme weather events. Yes, we're seeing most of these events coming up. But however, we need to look at how to talk to the leaders. And one way they seem to be understanding is if we go and protest. It looks like people are being pushed to these kind of limits, and this is what they're doing. Now, yesterday, there was more of the protests also coming up. Now, over 140,000 people attended a march against the rising cost of living, but also alleging government inaction against climate change. And of course, this is one that is taking into the streets. Well, demonstrators were in Paris, and of course, they have also marched to say that lack of government action on climate change is what they are protesting. And they're saying that they need more action, especially looking at green energy. The government continues to invest in fossil fuels, which is something that they are also against, because now you're looking at climate activists, but you're also looking at people on the ground who are suffering the effects of these extreme weather events. Well, adding to the growing defiance and anger about inflation, 3 weeks also in refinery strike that caused the fuel shortages across France, these protesters are saying now we need action, and we're not going to leave these streets until we know that government is actually committed to doing something about this climate crisis. And as well as calling for massive investments against the climate crisis, they also demanded emergency measures against high prices and, of course, looking at what can be done in long term to make sure that they are not suffering the effects of climate change. Now, Paris has had its fair share of climate change crisis. We do remember the recent event last year about the flooding within close to the Eiffel Tower. And we do know this is one of the places that has actually attracted tourists across France. Now, when you look at such areas starting to get flooded, that means residents are concerned, that means people are concerned that this could only be getting worse. Now, over 140,000 people, and Sunday also took this rally, but also police earlier predicted that 30,000 people would attend because they are also trying to organize within, the organized protesting and activism. They are taking to the streets to demand for action, but also informing local authorities about this. And I think we also had a similar event recently right here, as some people were taking it to the streets to protest against the decision on EACOP and all that is still really a mystery, and we are yet to study more on what can be done, especially to make sure that we're being environmental friendly, but also at the same time look out for how the country can grow economically, especially looking at some of these natural resources. If there is a danger that they pose, what can be done to make sure that we are in the goal to harness our natural resources, but at the same time take care of our environment. That is still a discussion that as a country, Uganda, we must have before we explore most of these natural resources. Now, we also want to take a look at what is happening across the country for right now. Looking at our satellite this morning, we did start off with mostly cloudy weather that is across most areas within northern Uganda. We also had a little bit of rains across Lake Victoria Basin. A few areas within Kampala did start off with quite some light showers, but most of those have started clearing. It looks like we're having mostly cloudy weather where we have those white colors that is indicative of cloudy weather also across southwestern Uganda and parts of midwestern across Lake Albert right there. Otherwise, the rest of the country seems to be starting off with quite a sunny morning. We'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and also take a look at those numbers that we are expecting for today. Now, quite some pleasant weather expected, especially across Central and Lake Victoria Basin. We have temperatures within the mid-20s. But looking at the central part of northern Uganda, Jumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with quite a warm morning for you over there. That is at 28 degrees. Now we look at the western side of Lake Victoria, where we do expect intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions as well. Quite pleasant for this morning at 26 degrees centigrade, but we do expect some rains later in the evening. Southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine as well, and also quite a warm morning for you at 26 degrees. Rains in the forecast for that area later in the afternoon. Mount Elgon Highlands, Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we're forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions that will be starting off with a chilly 25 degrees centigrade, but mostly cloudy over there. We might be looking at also some rains developing, but over a few places later in the evening. The eastern side of Lake Victoria, we do have those rains in the forecast. We now have a cloudy system over the area that will be bringing in rains at a chilly 25 degrees. Eastern Uganda, we're looking at Soroti, Katakuya, Muria and Kumi. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, mostly sunny weather for this morning, and also starting off hot at 27 degrees centigrade. The eastern parts of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Burudi and Nakaseke, we're also forecasting quite a sunny morning for you out there. We will have intervals of cloudy conditions, but that will also be maintaining a warm 27 for you this morning, and most of that will cross over into the afternoon in terms of sunny conditions. The central parts of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso, we're forecasting isolated rains. Those will be over a few places, and also starting off with quite a cool 24 degrees centigrade. We do expect that rainy system to redevelop later in the afternoon, and that will be similar weather also for most areas within the western stretch, looking at southwestern Uganda as well as West Nile, where we're likely to have most of those rains later in the afternoon. But for now, that is it in terms of weather updates. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be right after this, and later than that we'll also be giving you updates when it comes to sports. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios.